Welcome, everyone, to the True Health Community, sponsored by Doctors of Change. I'm so excited to bring to you one of my favorite human beings in the world. I consider him a brother, a partner, somebody that has, been in my life for well over 10 years since he first joined the MedFit Mastermind and was licensing medical fitness and lifestyle medicine in early 2000s or 2010, 2012, somewhere in that ballpark. It's been a while. And we're going to dive deep into his story today, and it's a remarkable one, seeing it firsthand along this. And if you're a doctor listening, I believe doctors carry more weight, more authority, more responsibility than most humans alive, and that responsibility is heavy at times. So Doctors of Change is designed for doctors to have community. This dives deep into the untold stories of medical pioneers who dared to challenge the status quo of medicine, visionaries who risked it all to create change in their field. In doing so, discovered they've had to heal themselves along the way to create lasting change. These are the stories of loss, resilience, courage, humanity in transformation. This is a journey into the heart of what it means not only to save lives, but to live with purpose. And it sometimes begins with ourselves, our families, and then reconnecting back to our mission and purpose. And I've been involved with Dr. Desai firsthand to see part of that journey, Doc. So take me back. We met, 12 years ago. You opened up your practice 14 years ago, and you were inspired to add lifestyle to your regenerative medicine mix. So take me back to those days that we first met, as the dream and the vision that you had as a pioneer in your space.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. First of all, thank you for having me on. I also consider you a brother, and you've helped me so much in my life, and it will forever be, I'll be indebted. Um, the, why I got interested in it was, delving into regenerative medicine. I'm a MD allopathic physician. I did radiology and interventional radiology with a musculoskeletal focus, spine and joints. And because I love procedures, I love the science of it. Obviously, wanted to go into medicine to help people, and I was really good at finding out what was going on and with imaging, and then place a needle in there and perfectly image guidance and making patients feel better. But we were really relegated to like steroids, ablative therapies, and those types of things. So, 2007, 2008, PRP kind of ran across my desk, and I was very skeptical in the beginning, and then started using it, and was blown away by the results. And the results were black and white for me because I imaged people afterwards because I didn't believe it. They were feeling better, and I was like, okay, well, it was torn. Let me see it and fixed. And that's kind of how I, gained my 15 minutes of fame, or whatever you want to call it. Kind of my place in the regenerative medicine world was a little bit of just a small contribution, was the imaging and kind of imaging proof, because I was curious, right? And when we realized that we could help actually change the trajectory of someone's life, get them to heal instead of mask the pain, and truly affect uh, their issues, but long term, like their purpose, right? I really felt that we were helping them get back to their purpose, and I was super passionate about it, and it drove me to really push myself into that. And the healthier the patient, the better it worked. And that's where really we sought any and all tools to help them. And that's where I came in contact with you. I was at a conference, A4M. So we had added, a functional medicine doctor. They were doing some hormones and IV therapies. And we said, let's go to A4M. And I heard Dr. Baumgartner speak, Joel, and I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like, I need to meet this guy. And as soon as he got off stage, I like tackled him and asked him for his autograph, and I was like, okay, I need to talk to you. And that's how we met you. And so, you invited us kindly to one of your conferences out in beautiful St. Cloud, Minnesota, and went out there, and that was the beginning of our experience together, and our journey, just to bring that, the collaborative, workforce together to help patients and really change the paradigm of medicine.
And I saw that, Doc, is you were working hard. You had a skill set, even when you came to the mastermind training, above most. With your radiology background, your skill set was already there. You were partly interested in what Doc was teaching, but you had those skill sets. A lot of our doctors were beginning. where yours was, how do I grow this business? And fast forward a handful of years, you went from gaining quite the reputation, working with professional athletes, growing your regenerative practice, working with exclusive professionals to executives, to moving into one of the other world leading centers that I'd seen, Restore PDX in Lake Oswego, a place like no others when I came back to see you in 2021, right after COVID. And we did a little bit of consulting then. And, didn't see you for a couple of years, put a business plan in place. You had a new practitioner, gave him some guidelines. And then, I went on my journey. Shortly after I came and visit there, I had an ego death in a medicine journey. And it took me about 2-3 years to recover from that, as deep inner healing that I went through, and recapturing and reclaiming my life after burnout of working 100-hour work weeks at MedFit and Rejuve. And I was in love with it, but I was coming from a place of trauma and high achievement. And, I started putting a message out there to doctors that, hey, I believe in all forms of medicine may have a relevance to you. And I was bringing doctors to Peru. I was hosting different ceremonies with other indigenous medicine holders, and it caught your attention. And I think we reconnected in 2023. Tell me a little bit of what drew that moment.
Well, there's a lot that happened. I mean, over the years, I mean, we grew that practice. It was when I started, it was myself and another practitioner who left pretty quickly, and so that was kind of a solo practice for a little while. But it grew and grew and grew, and we went to a new facility. At one point, we're almost a $5 million a year, like mainly cash pay business, which in that field is challenging. We didn't do just a little bit of marketing, but it was really word of mouth and outcomes. But there was a huge pressure with that, and um, it kind of broke me. Like it definitely did. So I went through a period of time where nothing was enough, and it was really driven by ego and uh, just there was a hole in my heart, and it couldn't be filled by any of those things. I didn't see it. So I was driving super hard and nothing was enough. We had a $5 million practice, multiple providers. I was president of the IOF, Interventional Orthobiologics Foundation. I was on their board. I was helping write books. Any opportunity that came by me, I said yes. Like that was it. I was like, yes, okay, I'll do it. And I
Top
was
of the
killing myself.
success ladder, the top 1% in the world of what you're doing right at
Yeah.
that level.
Doing crazy intradiscal stem cells. Probably, I've done the most intradiscal stem cells, cervical, probably in the world, right? I mean, we're going to publish some of that stuff, and I'm still passionate about the medicine, right? I loved the medicine. That was the core. So that wasn't, adulterated, but all the other stuff around it became confused. I lost that purpose. Like, why did I start? Right, to heal people, to make a change, to contribute, and then the money, power, ego, all those things. And for me, it was a little bit of the money, but not that wasn't really my driving factor. For me, it was coming from an Indian family, immigrant family. You got to get straight A's. You got to be, and even if it wasn't said, it was felt. You got to be a doctor. You have to be successful. If you're not a doctor or something, a high level professional, you're going to be out on the street. Like that was it was either there or like you're literally going to be destitute. That was the feeling. And so that's a hard place to live, like grow up with. And that's kind of what drives you. And so, that became part of the persona. And it really took me to a place where eventually it broke. I broke. I burnt out, and everything flows downhill. And it bled into the practice. It really did. Like we were doing
So
the
what were the
world class.
behaviors? What are you doing to cope with that? Because I know it felt like the world. I was on the stages, living the Instagram life. We're growing like crazy. We have a 28,000 square foot center. I was using cannabis every day to shut my brain off, and my wife and I were growing disconnected. What are some of the symptoms of the weight, the travel, the expectations that you're not only doing to feed a bunch of lives and take care of your patients, but that you had on yourself?
Yeah, I think the biggest things were work was probably number one, like escapism into work and just pushing and saying yes to every opportunity. Two was alcohol. right? That was kind of the that numbing agent, and really, it was connection with others. Like I don't, I like even said, I definitely, I'm an alcoholic. I could admit that today, but I don't. But there's various forms, of that disease, and for me, it was very like the social connection. Like I needed to get out there. I don't think I've ever had a beer by myself. Like literally, I've never like sat down and I'm going to watch a football game or I'm going to relax and I'm going to pop open. That's just not me. It's hey, let's go out. Let's enjoy, and then I can't stop. Like it just there's a train that goes, it starts and it does not stop until it crashes, and that can be very devastating. And poor decisions can be made, boundaries can be broken, and it created chaos in my life. And it was self chosen, right? It was um, I had that angst, that anxiety, that drive, and I needed to be able to calm that down. There was challenges at home with marriage, and so I think those are probably the main things. It's just not being present, being absent, thinking that you were doing the right thing by like, okay, I'm bringing home a good
Rising.
paycheck. I got this car, I got this house, I have this practice, and all these things. And internally, I was miserable. Like I was, and we can show, I've, thank God. I mean, I had to hit the rock very bottom, uh, and but it allowed me to pick myself up and have that. I'm proud of myself, like I had that resilience and the desire to be better, right? And it took a long time, like to get better from that took a couple of years. And that wasn't just abstinence happened quickly, right? I mean, I had that kind of forced upon me from the medical board. I'm currently in inactive status, hopefully one day getting that ability to practice again. But and I was, I did turn in my license while I'm doing my work, but abstinence is quick, right? You can just stop. And if you have somebody monitoring your every move, it's
And
very
have
easy
to.
to stay like you're clean, right? And the sobriety, what I learned, I mean, I started AA, I started to have, that fellowship and understanding, and it takes time for that brain to rewire. And I was doing all those things, and that's really what brought me to to kind of talk to you about it. And you were working with me and seeing me in this, and you were talking to me, and I had known your spiritual journey, and so I was curious, and I said, hey, I've heard about this in various and different forms about psychedelics. I watched that. There's a really cool Netflix documentary, Change Your Mind. I forget the doc that made that. It's a beautiful series, but to kind of to understand like what it was doing and how that affected neuroplasticity and kind of changing these dynamics from a kind of scientific perspective. And I was scared, but you invited me to a journey when I'd gotten through my like abstinence, was into that first phase of
Yeah,
sobriety.
you were sober at the time that you came.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I was sober, and I'd been working on stuff and been seeing therapists and really trying to figure out like root cause analysis. I'm a doctor, it's like, okay, what's driving this kind of like behavior? Why am I doing this to myself? And we went and did an ayahuasca journey um, in 22, I think. Was it 23, 22?
22
Um,
or 23, and then before, you decided to voluntarily suspend your license as well.
yeah. And so kind of went there, and that really it was it accelerated so much of the work. I could put it that way, right? I had an ego death. I experienced like the most powerful emotions, to be able to look at what was really driving some of that need to be loved, right? And to want all these adorations, and it wasn't ever enough going to be enough. But I had that realization that everything was there already. I was just looking in the wrong places, right?
Mhm.
To look inward and to find that self-compassion, which I think was really challenging as someone that's so driven. And I think that's what physicians, I see that. And when you go through some of these experiences, you see that sometimes in others very clearly. And it's not my place to like preach or anything. Is That's why I'm here telling my story. So maybe that resonates because I don't want to tell anybody how to be, right? I didn't like that when somebody told me that, and I was in my uh, in my pathology or in my play ethic. I didn't want that. I don't like that. I didn't like that. And so, all I'm doing is expressing my pathway, and maybe there's some resonance or vibration with others. But that's where I came out of it with was just a level of self love and compassion for that human being that was trying so hard to do something and saying, okay, look, maybe that's not the path for you. Um, there's a purpose, but maybe that purpose can be the same, but maybe that path isn't the right one, and to be okay with that, right? And I think that's what really came out of that, just that clarity. And then I was able to like do the integrations, and we talk about like set and setting. That's so important, like that. That mindset that you go in with, like I'm here for a purpose, and then the setting, like to have that much care and love, and it was like 8 of us, and to be like held like that and go through that, because I've seen on some of these places where they have hundreds of people and they're doing like these crazy ayahuasca retreats, and everybody's just like on their own and good luck, here's something to drink. Like that is not the like it is beautiful. I don't know if I'll ever want to do it again. um, it was definitely a deep and powerful experience, and but it was hard, physically, mentally, very challenging, but it really brought so much clarity. And then just that focus when I came back was like, hey, this is my family is absolutely priority over everything else, and myself in that, because I am the
Leader of that family.
leader of that. And well, and my wife and co-parent is as well, like we are the people that are leading that. And we're gonna, everything is deriving from us. So we have to be strong. We have to be powerful. We have to be able to handle these challenges that come up in life. Because there were times I wanted to give up. It was like loss of career, loss of reputation, loss of building, loss of income, loss of license, all of those things. And it would, I felt like Job. I was like, all right, I'm done. And uh, to then realize, like, in the midst of all of that, there was, and I think that that journey was part of that, is that you recognize the beauty in life, the simple things. And that's where it started. It was just like every day, just noticing the simple things. And when all of those stressors started to dissipate, those financial pressures, that work pressure, taking care of all those patients, working your butt off for doing that, and then all those other things that were added on top of it, running a multi-million dollar business, having those pressures of we're not making enough money, this bill, that bill. It was just like slowly as that dissipated, I forgot that I was not living life. Like literally, we get caught in that tunnel. And I know that that's a lot of practitioners, that even if they don't know they're in business, just the medical profession itself can do that to us. And we lose like all of the beauty that's just sitting in front of us and around us, and the simplicity that is available to us. And so when, over this past year, 2 years, like going into that, it's been, life altering. I mean, I've been literally a different human being, mentally and physically, and have gone back to that core because I kind of lost myself, and I knew that I had that grace and beauty inside me, but somewhere along the way, it got tainted.
Yeah, I want to take you to the back to the basement for a moment, if that's all right with you. Is I know you had other good guidance, or friend Dr. Rick and Patel. You had me, that senior genius, and what also made you light up, even though you had all this, the responsibility that you're carrying so much, is you've always been kind, humble, a great teacher, a great educator, an entrepreneur, but also even being a fractional CEO for you, being a mentor, being a coach, knowing that, could you run a business? Yes. And you were running a business, one of the best in the world, but it was much. You had to, sedate or distract, or you weren't fully present. And seeing that maybe your best gifts weren't running the business, but doing these high end treatments, being the speaker, the educator. So even knew that you had to go through the mud, those hard parts. I knew there was the greatest potential for freedom, alignment, using your best gifts for impact on the potential other side. But take me to that moment where you're hearing that, but it's hard to believe when you're carrying so much. So some people don't recognize, sometimes you have to lose things to really step into your greatest purpose. And that's when doors can open up. So tell me kind of that transition of letting go, the tightness of control, keeping everything that you worked your whole career for, and then kind of what's it like as a doctor to truly surrender and be like, I guess I have to listen now, whether I'm done fighting. There's nothing I can do here. I surrender. And that rebuilding process, what was that like?
Yeah, well, I didn't do it in an elegant way, so I can tell you that.
Yes, we had a few calls, and I'm sure a few more people had a few calls. But yeah, I mean, it
No,
feels
no,
like you're
I
losing
didn't.
everything.
I didn't listen. I fought, and part of the uh, what makes many physicians, and I'm not just saying physicians, but that's what this podcast and our audience is built around, providers, right? What one of the defining characteristics of them is resilience. Like we go through undergraduate and medical school, and it's brutal, and we're just hours and hours in study, residency, training, internship, fellowship, just you get beat the shit out of, right? And you just get back up, get back up, get back up, and you don't quit. And I didn't, and I wouldn't have, right? And I
Just kind
truly
of had it
believe,
taken away. There, you
yeah,
were
God had to
too
come in and
trivial. Yes.
slap me down and be like, "Hey, I gave you all." I know everybody knows that joke. I'm not going to say it because I don't know it fully. I forget it, but about that guy that there's a flood and he's drowning. He's on a house, and finally the helicopter comes, and he keeps saying, "No, God told me He's going to save me." It was like there were so many signs.
Mhm.
Like you got to turn it around. And I remember, you, Rick, talking about this, dude. You got to just slim this down. You got to let people go. You have to like let go of a little bit of the stream to make to make it long term. And I didn't want to do that. I felt some loyalty to everybody. I felt a passion to keep this going. No, we'll make it work. It'll turn around next month. It'll turn around next month, and just poured money and money into this. And that there grew like resentment out of it and all those things, right? I mean, I realize this now of why I behaved like that. But part of that was ego. I didn't want to fail. But also there's this training, right? You're entrained to not quit. It's painful, but there's a purpose. And if you believe in your purpose, you don't quit. And so it's really hard. I empathize with anybody that's out there that's feeling that. But there was like when the universe took it away, and it was taken away. I mean, let's just be straight. It was ripped out of my hands, and I felt like I was thrown to the curb.
Nothing you could do. You did
Nothing I can
everything
do.
you could.
Like the board said, boom, you're done. Go here. You're done for now. Go to the bench. And that was catastrophic, right? I can't pay for this big building, all this, millions of dollars, all those things. Like what are you supposed to do? And it was the most inelegant way of doing this, but it was the most beautiful and necessary. Because I looking back, and I knew it even then, I didn't know how to quit. And I couldn't turn that around. So it's and like, part of that is upbringing, part of that is, the pressures, part of that's the ego. I didn't want to look like a failure. And um, but there's a more graceful way of doing that. And looking back, hindsight's 2020, but there could have been things that were done along the way that would have made it easier. But I was so resistant to that change. But when you look at how much I had to lose and how much pain that I went through that process, and it was brutal. Like just every morning waking up, what did I do? Right? How did it come to this? Like beating myself up on all those things. Like 1,000 mornings of that. Right? You're waking up to that. Even today, sometimes these days I'll wake up with a brief jolt and anxiety of like, oh my gosh, where did it where did that go wrong? Where did the train go off the tracks? And the looking back, there were so many signs that, hey, pull back a little bit. All of this doesn't have to happen right now. Let it come to you in time, right? So these are some of the things that I
Don't force
now
it.
don't force it. And you hear that, right? You hear these things from a lot of smart people, and I had a lot of mentors and wonderful people in my life that helped me get to where I did get to. Right? That wasn't just me; that was this community around me. Right? I mean, the late Dr. Malanga, Chris Centeno, you, Joel, like all of these wonderful people, brilliant minds that were in my life to help me shape. Rick and Patel, Steve Sampson. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And all the docs that worked with me, right, and the staff that worked with me, just like they were so supportive and influential. But that's when you're driven to that point, I think you sometimes just you lose focus, and it's you want all of that, right now. There was a level of impatience that was there. There was a level of um, we call it,
Decide, let it back, let it be there. Like you're still fighting. You're still
yeah, you're
like
just
trying to hang in there and like fight for hope. And
yeah,
yeah, of course. And who wouldn't, So hindsight there, like, but seeing this process, like holding you as a brother, praying for you, like there's three things that I saw that really started allowing you, from my perspective, to kind of surrender, trust, and allow the goodness that has always been around all of us. We just don't always know when we're in here. Is number one is I saw you get more time with your family in this situation, and we already said it, family first. In my rock bottom moment, to be honest, I didn't know that I wanted to live anymore. The shame, the guilt, the challenges, and the thought of my family not having it was enough to get me through my hardest time. Because just like you said, it was the most uncomfortable thing in the world, and I saw you spending that time changing your complexity, changing your possibilities because you had put so much time and energy into your business. And then I saw a team surround you, us a red vibe of seeing your gifts and reminding you and building a little bit momentum that there's some things out here that are aligned with your gifts, and you don't have to do the things that you're not the most gifted at. And you started seeing that potential. And third, it took a little bit later, but I heard you finally say, I own my shit. Nobody else put me here but me. And yes, circumstances happen. And yes, it may not be fully fair or fully heard, but still, I own this. And those three things, over a course of time, I seen that hero's journey begin for you. And now I see you in your best gifts and still drawn. And again, even coming on here and sharing this story, like not many doctors would do that. They hide in silence and are scared to be vulnerable because of judgment, reputation, all of it. And like, so thank you for be willing to do this. And that's what I noticed. So let me know if any of those were saving graces from you. That's just truly my perspective, or if there was
yeah,
any other saving grace moments that really took you through the bottom floor basement from top 1% to I'm losing it all.
yeah. No, I absolutely. I mean, my family, my parents, like who's your friends and who's your family when you go through something like that. Like really, your parents always your parents always loved you. They took care of me. My parents did in that darkest moment to say, okay, your 50-year-old son has to come, stay with you. There was times I got kicked out of the house. It was like, okay, this
And I saw
is
him spank you verbally a couple times, and that was even
yeah,
hard back and
yeah,
forth. My
that
dad
was
just yelled at me. It's just like, yes, that's gonna happen.
yes, he did. Um, yeah, no, it was, mom, dad, my kids, Nisha, and it was really that, like I said, that slow growth and understanding of the beauty that's around you. Like my relationship with my family, my kids, my sister, uh, my loved ones and friends around me. It was incredible. And so, in this last couple of years, I have the strongest relationship with. I have 5 children, the most amazing relationship with them. I get to take them to school every single day, pick them up a lot of the times, involved in their activities, you know, um, a parent at one of the kids, some of the classroom parent, like those things that I missed in the older kids that I'm able to
Synchro
do.
swimming,
Yeah.
synchro swimming, Dr.
All the
Desai
activities
doing
and
all the things.
yeah. And that's just so fulfilling. And again, and I was a big part of that before, but I can tell you that I was there a lot. I was blessed. I had a job. I wasn't on call all the time. I didn't have to work the weekends, but mentally having that business, having that stress was there all the time. And I wasn't present. So my body might have been there, but my mind wasn't. Right? And so that's a huge piece of it is that when you're able to be fully present and mindful in the moment, that creates so much power and influence around you and so much of a deeper connection with the people that you're with. Right. And that's you know, the somebody said a beautiful thing, we talk about it's not where you end up, it's the journey that's important. And then I heard this somewhere, and it's not even the journey that's the most important thing. It's who are you with during the journey, right? What are the relationships that you're creating during that journey is actually the most important. It's not even the journey, right? It's those relationships. And that's kind of where I have savored this last couple of years, where with you, with the Red Vive team, like around me, that there's a bunch of people that own it, right? They are working hard. They're driven to make this amazing, and I feel like I'm a different person with them, right? I have had to go through so much growth as a human being. And it's like, damn, did it take 50 years to do that? That's messed up. That's sad. It took me that long. And I saw a T-shirt when I turned 50. It said the first 50 years of childhood are the hardest. I was like, hell yeah, that is exactly. I want that shirt. But
That's
it took
great.
so long to get to that, and it's interesting that you can say, hey, this team is different, right? This team is different around you. You have this amazing team, and that's why you're doing it. And it's me, like I'm showing up as a different person to that team,
Yeah.
right? And
So
that wasn't there before for a lot of the people in my life, and I've made that commitment to myself and to them to show up, the way that I want to, and have those goals. And it's reflective, right? That vibration is reflective.
now I want to pause. Maybe again, we're all imperfect for anybody that's listening, but I also got the opportunity to clinic and as reorganizing as this transition happened to this license. I also recognized a few things, and just to know that we're all doing the best that we can. What Doc had is one of the nicest practices, one of the best employee benefits, food in his break rooms, generous salaries. You're carrying a lot of weight. Things that I've ran many, many practices, including my own, that didn't have those fringe benefits. So not everybody knows, and the employees just see it as great. I got a good job. And that's why I think they did all fight for you through this and everything. You were good to them. But that has a significant cost. The minute insurance contracts or when you're in cash medicine or anything right there. So, like, I believe in balance. Like, if you're too good and you're not focused on creating EBITDA or profits, then it's not lasting. And at periods like it's hard to run that as a business owner and balance profit in people and balance. It's one of the greatest spiritual journeys of all time, no doubt about it. So as much as you had some personal things going on, you were running again a practice like very few others in a good heart. But maybe business again wasn't just your greatest passion or greatest skill set, because sometimes that giving can be taken advantage of if your eye's not on the KPIs, the details. And to be honest, that wasn't your gift, is looking at the
Mm.
numbers in there. You're a visionary that's just wanting those person. And I always think if you had the perfect 1, 2, or 3 that had that detailed gift, it might have been different. So all that to be insane is me and Baumgartner made a great partnerships. The greatest businesses in the world, just like Red Vibe growing right now, are great partnerships. So, what advice would you give to doctors out there that are struggling solo or going through the struggles? What business lessons, if you could look in hindsight, would you give to anybody that does not have their health, a family balance, or is not happy completely where they are, they're sedated or disconnect from their true purpose? What business advice would you give other doctors out there?
Yeah, I think probably the first is focus on your health, right? Getting yourself healthy, really looking in the mirror and understanding what are the things that are standing in your way, whether that be food, alcohol, lack of exercise, stress, God forbid you're smoking, whatever that is, like that's holding you back, overworking, not taking care of yourself, both physically, mentally, spiritually. I think that's because that's the crux, right? I mean, if you don't, it's like in the airplane, if you don't oxygenate yourself, everybody else is around you is going to suffer. So that's the absolute, like, get yourself focus on that, and you can be slow, but get yourself vital again. That vitality will be infectious, and it will affect all of the other things. So that's where I would say, there
Start
has
there.
to be block time that you make for meditation, for mindfulness, for spiritual reconnection, whether that be retreats,
Mhm.
whether that be, yeah, I mean, I'll send a picture of my before and after 2 years ago and now. I mean, I've never been in this good of a shape in my life, and that feeds all of the other things in my life, right? I mean, to me, that's part of my meditative state is I work out, right? And that helps me. Um, I have my brotherhood in AA. I have, a outlet for creativity, and really allowing yourself to have those things, whether it be guitar, music. I love like techno music, and I haven't been back to DJing yet, but I wanted to at some point get that equipment out. But those are the things. Spend time with your family, your core unit. That's the things that are most important. As far as business, though, I would say be real with yourself, and I tried, but it was challenging. I'm a radiologist. I like pictures. I do not like numbers. I gotta be an awful nephrologist. And it's really looking at your skill set and desire and coming on board. And it's challenging. Like I look back, I think some of the things I wish I had uh, been a little bit, and I was very generous in many ways. I wish I had been a little bit more inclusive in maybe in ownership or leadership to get other people involved, right? To allow that because there was other great minds, other physicians in our group to be able to
No.
come in and contribute. And their skill sets were different than mine, maybe a little bit more business savvy, maybe a little bit more, number savvy. I mean, you show me a P&L today. I don't even want to. Like, I literally don't want to look at it. I guess I could probably over all these, decades of having to do that, be very average at it, but it is just not something that I want to do. If I never have to look at one again in my life, I will be okay. Right.
Mhm.
It's just something that I don't want to do. And you have to be honest with yourself and then surround yourself with people that are going to take the time, delegate, but make sure that you're tracking everything. So you can delegate everything, trust, but check, right? Do the checks, get the people around you, have a separate CFO company or somebody outsourced that you can send stuff to and they can validate everything because there's a lot of people that will take advantage of you. We are targets, and sometimes the more generous and kind you are, the bigger target you are. Right? And so you have to be really thoughtful and uh, pragmatic about those things, and honing on your skill set. For me, over time, I realized one of my probably the most powerful thing in my tool set is my communication ability. Like I love speaking, I love talking, I love communicating, and teaching, and that is an absolute passion. That's what I did to my patient for my patients. Right, I brought that education to them at their level. It was a very powerful skill set. And so I'm taking that with me. I was good at, reading MRIs and imaging and putting needles in challenging places. But there was a big part of that. So I think that where whatever kind of physician you are, provider you are, look at those skill sets and then also write down like, what do you love to do during the day? Like
Mhm.
of those things, what do you absolutely love to do? And what do you not want to do? And then what the list of things that you don't want to do, go find somebody that's badass at doing those things and then let them do it. Right. And I think that's the kind of from a high level, if you can do those types of things, then you're going to be really happy and you will, just um, eventually you'll be very successful.
You follow those things alone, life is going to be good. Take care of yourself, spend time with your family, do the things that you love, find your gifts in business, build around your non-gifted areas. Pretty much, a recipe for success. And the beautiful part, Doc, is I've seen you go through the depths, the highest to the lowest to the other side in your gifts. Other team members on your team, just like you're saying, you have partners now that are doing their gifted areas, and you're doing your gifted areas, and you're teaching and you're educating, and you may not be practicing regenerative medicine with PRP and stem cells in the moment, but you are absolutely delivering in practicing regenerative medicine. Tell us about this new chapter and why you're so passionate, excited. And I see that soul, that inner child in you every time you
Mhm.
speak. We were even on a call with a world leading doctor in China yesterday, and I'm hearing your communication skills in Saturday, and I'm like, I love that. And I'm learning every time I hear you speak. So share a little bit about, how life is right now.
Yeah. So in the midst of all of this crisis and, you know, interesting stuff, had the opportunity to build a photobiomodulation company or red light company, red, near infrared light. And it was part of our, energy-based medicine practice. And energy-based medicine, a lot of the regenerative medicine providers, they have an understanding of this, where we're using shockwave or EMTT or, like M-Sculpt, different devices to help tissues heal. And one of those is red and near-infrared light. You're hearing about it everywhere. Lasers are in that category of photobiomodulation. So using light energy to modulate biologic systems. So that's what PBM stands for. So photobiomodulation. And we're using specific wavelengths to heal and accelerate healing and provide pain relief into tissues. And so these are what you're seeing, kind of everywhere. It's blowing up as far as kind of media coverage and an understanding of the regenerative capacity of these energy devices, because all of those stimulate cellular mechanisms that are healing and are really regenerative. Right? So these are extensions of our ability to do procedures, injections, but even mind, body, spirit. Right? All of these things, like that core foundation, sleep, nutrition, exercise, that is all helping with those regenerative processes. So we came upon this light therapy, and I was skeptical at first, and I'd seen it, I'd been introduced years ago. And what it has taken me years to understand is we had the right medicine, right? But we had the wrong dosing. We were a little bit confused on how to exactly use it. And so one way of, it's this wavelength is the medicine. So when you look at these different spectra, it's electromagnetic spectrum from, very powerful high frequency gamma rays to long, low, slow, like AM radio waves. And in the middle of that electromagnetic spectrum is light. And so very focused piece of that light spectrum, the red and the near infrared, accelerates healing. And so what we did was we isolated that, and won't go super deep into the science, but basically that stimulates our mitochondria to produce more ATP, to release nitric oxide, to become much more efficient, to start intracellular processes, to go anabolic and building and healing and less inflammation. And that's kind of what you're stimulating with light energy. And the light is the oldest source. The reason for all life on this planet is that big ball in the sky, right? And the way that light comes to us during the day, it's really fast. Can I go into kind of that AM PM? Do we have time for that? I don't want to bore you or anybody
I
else.
do have to cut off at 12 more minutes, but yes.
Okay, so why in the heck would red and near infrared light do all those things, right? And it's so elegant and amazing because it's evolutionary biology. And so when we figured this out, that actually sparked all the neurons in my brain. I'm like, I love this medicine. It's amazing. But it's millions of years old, right? From the unicellular organisms that use light to produce energy to our mitochondria and our cells now. There's evolutionary biology that uses the specific wavelengths of light to modulate biologic systems. That first 15 degrees of AM light and that last 15 degrees of the sun when it's setting, that PM light, the light has to go through a long path. So low energy, long path. So all of the blues, the ultraviolets, the high energy, the gamma rays, that all gets scattered. And only the longest wavelengths come through. And for that, to wake us up in the morning, it's the red and near infrared light that gets to us. So for over 400,000 years, we've been human, right? And only in the last 1,000 years, a couple of thousand years, industrial revolution, lights in the last 150 years, we've totally changed our lifestyle. We're indoors 93% of the time, but our biology is built to be outside, right? We get stimulated in the morning. And what do we need in the morning? JR, when we're getting up, what do we need? Energy, right? We got to crawl out of our caves, get out from under the trees and go hunt or pick berries or do something. That's what our biology is telling us. And that red and that near infrared light's what we see. It's our trigger, our cellular trigger to wake up to create energy. And that same medicine, that light medicine in the evening, what does it tell us to do? Right? Go to sleep.
And down.
Because we can't see in the dark. Our eyes don't see it. Go to bed so you don't get eaten or fall off a cliff. Right? And so that's telling you to do that. And what happens, it modulates our circadian rhythm. It produces growth hormone. It produces melatonin. It suppresses cortisol. It releases stem cells into our system so that we can rest, digest, repair when we're sleeping, right? And that's supposed to be our evolutionary biology. We are indoors 93% of the time in our cars and our homes. We are not getting the signals. So we are confused biologically, right? And what we've realized is, one, we can use this medicine to actually modulate circadian entrainment and get better sleep. and modulate those normal biologic processes. But we can also, because the way that it affects our tissue and our cells, we can concentrate that and we can put it over injured areas, and it stimulates healing. It stimulates less pain, right? Better blood flow. So many cool things. And just like what I told you, what would your guess be at the best way of leveraging that medicine? When would you use it?
In the morning or
Yep.
before bed.
Or both, right? And
Yes.
so we were having this right medicine, but if you go once a week to a clinic and get the dose, it's just not enough. You have to use it. And so we created this business around it that we're going to get this to our passion is to get this to every home. And literally anybody that has cells, which is everybody, deserves this light, right? That's going to help them live better lives. And so that's our mission or our goal. And it fits so beautifully as an adjunct with regenerative medicine. So in our clinic, everybody that did a PRP, everybody that did a stem cell, they went home with this and they're going to live better lives. They're going to have better results, less pain. And so for a practice, it's wonderful. And what we realized, it's just not regenerative medicine. Well, it's just not regenerative medicine in the musculoskeletal field. It's in dentistry, it's in podiatry, it's in wellness, it's everywhere.
Internal
And so that's
medicine.
been yeah, it's all of medicine. And so it's
All of
been so fun to be able to learn. I have my pseudo master's degree in photobiomodulation, read thousands of articles and books and anything I get my hands on, and then really seeing a lot of the clinical results with working with hundreds of doctors and clinics around the country. So it's been an absolute blessing, and you've seen the growth of that, and you've been a big part of that. So thank you for that contribution, and it's been an absolute blessing to do that.
Well, I love ancient wisdom and everything that you're saying. Light, oxygen, grounding, frequency, food. This is life. Your body does have the ability to regenerate and heal. When you can package in these cutting edge technologies and leverage the best of both worlds, it's there, meaning there's very few technologies out there that don't have pain. Like even shockwave, it can hurt a little bit, or even massage. This, you just sit in front of it and meditate. And my children use it. It's not just me when it goes home. Like my daughter rolled her ankle 2 years ago, and normally it takes about 3 weeks before she is able to get back in the ice. She did it 3 days before playoffs last year, and she was back on the ice 3 days later. I had a second/third degree burn right here. You can still see it a little bit, but literally, I thought I was going to have to maybe even have cosmetics. I'm red lighting after the first 24 hours twice a day. And the recovery, we've seen people in hospice go home after these treatments. We've seen people with autoimmune conditions that can't even get out of bed that are rising. So the results from the ease, the time, the application are undeniable. And, I always say why we've set up our demo package. Test it. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Whether you bring this in your practice, whether you buy it at cost so you can have it in your own home, like you'll never know unless you do or go experience these things. And this is again why I put my name behind it, because it works. No
Yeah.
different than Regen. Why our clinic was the top volume in the country at the time in 2019, because I was told I needed knee replacement. 18 months later, I was back to playing rugby. So I was so convicted that why would anybody do drugs or surgery as opposed to regenerative medicine? And why now, knowing what I know now, why wouldn't you do surgery and regenerative medicine? Why wouldn't you have injury and red light? So, like, most people are trained this or that. But when you integrate ancient wisdom with cutting technology, I think now what you've heard as biohacking is becoming relevant. And I see it in the spa clinics that I work with, the regen clinics, and the results speak for themselves. So
I mean,
in
I can give a real brief.
please,
I have a Ehlers-Danlos, so EDS. I have a Biden score of 9, so you can see my thumb here, my wrist. I can touch my elbow, and everything is loosey goosey. Good at yoga, bad at football. That's my moniker. And so, I have never been able to. I love lifting weights. Never been able to get strong. Past a certain level, my shoulders would sublux, and bench presses. People know about that. Like I could never do over 185 like one time. And but by using this, and this is something that they'll take home, but they're never going to stop using. Like this light panel will become a daily habit. I use it twice a day, every single day. If I'm traveling, sometimes I miss. Now I'm even taking one with me, and it is a ritual for me. And about 6 months in, well, a few weeks in, my pain went away. Right, I have elasthesis at 4 or 5. I've had stem cells in my low back. I had 18 PRP and stem cells injections to keep me going over the years, especially in my 40s. And at 50, I started doing this, and about 6 months in, I'm lifting, and I'm like, "This, I'm so dang strong. What is this about?" And over the course of that year, and I think it's the collagen change, right? For that photobiomodulation, it's cumulative. It's like every day you're doing more and more, and it's accumulating. It's like Warren Buffett, like you're just putting money away, putting energy into your system. And a year after I started, I did 225 pounds, 8 reps. Like I couldn't believe it. I'm 51 or 50. I'm going to be 51, and I couldn't believe that I was able to get that strong and resilient. And I had nothing else changed in my patterns but that red light. Right? And that's why I'm so passionate about it, that when we give this to patients and we teach them how to use it, it's going to be forever. It's not going to get put away. Like it can get you through your episode of why maybe you're seeing somebody, but then you're going to use it for all of these different benefits. And that's why it's so powerful and interesting.
I think it's the best tech investment that's out there. I love sauna, hyperbarics, and hypoxia, but the cost versus the time, the ratio, this is the simplest, easiest. So I'm a big believer. I've built some of the world's largest biohacking centers to date right now and love it all. This is the one go to. Sauna second, hypoxia maybe third. So if you're asking from my perspective, that's what it is. But there's a reason why red light to me is fitting in every other space that's out there compared to some of these other technologies. So, Doc, I have one final question, and I'm going to ask you to send your lecture or your presentation for all the doctors, because this show was about your story and resilience and having to learn, and hopefully that's a big inspiration to anybody out there. I'm certainly grateful for it and an honor to witness your transformation, and hope there's more people that feel comfort in sharing or coming into communities like this where you can be vulnerable, because that's where it begins, the self-awareness, the struggle to be held, to be witnessed in these spaces, because doing it alone, you can, but you don't have to. And so my last question, if you could rewrite the story of healthcare, knowing what you know now, what does that look like, and what gives you hope that change, doctors of change, and the dream of real regenerative healthcare is possible for all humanity?
Yeah. I think we've started that process. I think there is kind of a root cause analysis, like getting to the reason for someone's problem rather than symptom management. I mean, just keep it really simple. Is why is someone going through this? From, if it may be emotional trauma, it may be physical damage, or degeneration. What's driving this? And what gives me a lot of hope is what we're seeing is kind of the non-insurance model, honestly, because that's unfortunately the insurance model is broken. It is absolutely
Cash
broken.
practice.
Yeah, and I think that uh, taking care of the whole person, looking at this from what we're seeing with, and that's just a small, like with peptides, with energy-based medicine, with red light therapy, with nutrition, and really like that personalized medicine and that model of care. Unfortunately, because it is not insurance covered, there's very few people that are going to get access to that right now. Right, but it's our mission and our job to get this to everyone. Just like Tesla had to start with really expensive cars, and now EVs are everywhere. That's just one example of technology. This is specific medical technology that we're understanding the paradigm of treating the whole body. So I think that's the future, and I think it's slowly happening. But that's my hope, is that we continue that pathway and that journey.
I believe it fully, and that's where cash practice. If you're a doctor running a cash practice or an insurance practice, this bundle below is at a savings that allows you to have it in your clinic, have it in your own home, use firsthand, even if you never offer it to patients. I think you deserve it, and the world needs to know about it, just like you said. Also, going to put one of Doc's presentations. He did it at the Rejuve MedFit conference. It was great. So if you're looking for the research, the science, a little bit more of the depth of what Dr. Desai has to say, then please also click that as well. Doc, thank you so much for the inspiring story, for being in process, for being real, for making the difference that you've already made in the regenerative medicine field and now the holistic health field. So thank you so much. Keep up the great work, and great to see
Thank
you
you,
back
Taylor.
in purpose and in alignment with your family, your health, and your purpose.
Thank you, brother.